Welcome to Ironhide's Game Time, the video to the section of the podcast where I highlight the game I've been playing the most and why you should be playing it too. So for this month, I've been playing World of Tanks. This game takes tanks ranging from the Great War to a little past World War II, from nations including the United States, Great Britain, Germany, and the USSR. They come in 5 different flavors. You have your light tanks for scouting, medium tanks for poking and multi-role fighting, heavy tanks for pushing the offense or shoring up the defense, self-propelled artillery for long-range indirect support fire that can really infuriate your enemies with killing blows from across the map, and tank hunters, sniper tanks with fixed hull guns that can vary from in-your-face heavy armor destroyers or across-the-map camouflaged snipers. The tanks also come separated into 10 tiers for players to work their way up, starting with the small T1 Cunningham at Tier 1, to the ubiquitous M4 Sherman at Tier 5, onto the mighty M48A1 Patton at Tier 10. Each country's tanks also differ in their own way. American tanks have a real advantage that they can hide the body of their tank, and Russian tanks will consistently strike terror if, or rather when, they get close. Still with me? Good. Then let's expand on these nations and their tanks. There are 8 nations in total. As mentioned before, you have the United States, the UK, Germany, and the USSR. The other 4 nations are France, Japan, China, and the newest nation, Czechoslovakia. For starters, there's the United States tank line. These tanks make good all-rounders, but really shine when you can hide their hull behind a hill or building and get into what's known as a hull-down position. The Americans' excellent turret armor makes penetration difficult compared to the relatively soft hulls. The Soviet line of tanks are kind of the opposite of the American counterparts, being very specialized in their chosen field. But if put into a situation the tank is not suited for, Russian tanks will tend to fall behind. The Russians also benefit from one of the largest selections of tanks in the game, along with the Germans. The Germans are similar to their Russian cousins. These tanks still provide good overall armor protection, which, while not as thick as the Russian lines, still provide better protection in some key areas than other nations. What the Germans do specialize in is health pools. German tanks have larger health pools than other nations and more accurate guns than Russian tanks, and in fact, more accurate on average than other nations. Moving on to the British line, you'll find 2 different styles of tanks: infantry support style or cavalry style. The infantry support tanks were built to move with infantry and as such are slow and heavily armored. The cavalry style tanks are fast, very fast, but with little armor to protect themselves compared to the infantry support tanks. Then there are the French tanks. These are very offensive tanks, starting with slow heavy movers at low tiers, to one of the fastest tanks at Tier 5, to the fierce autoloaders at Tier 10. Relatively new and underexposed are the Chinese and Japanese line of tanks. Both these countries suffer from lack of variety, but still have perfectly serviceable tanks for their tiers. The Chinese lines rely on foreign-made tanks up until about Tier 6. Their tanks, on the whole, though, have the best mobility in the game and good camouflage. The Japanese tanks are mostly known for the newer heavy line of tanks. When you see these Japanese heavies in battle, expect really big armor and really big guns. These tanks are some of the largest in the game, and if you miss one, it could be said you couldn't even hit the broadside of a barn. That's how big these tanks are. But with a little know-how, they can be defeated with some teamwork or a bit of luck. Lastly, there's the newest addition, the Czech tanks. While limited to just one line of tank, these tanks have proven to be excellent support tanks. They have very fast reload times, while still having autoloaders like the French lines and faster reload times between magazines than the French. So there you have it, World of Tanks. Hopefully this video has brought you up to speed on what the game has to offer, and the wonderful tactile, skill-based game that is World of Tanks. See you next time on Ironhide's Game Time.